All right, so let's make the basic service berry uh, model that I'm using. Let's see. So the goal here is not to have like production ready, delicious, high quality models. The goal is to get a prefab made of each forest object so that I can work on the script for the procedural placement of all of the stuff in the forest. And serviceberry trees are one of the things. So we just need to make it exist. Um, so here we go. So here are the three reference images that I have for it. So here's my blend file where all my plants are. And there's a person for scale, a person that I modeled. And there's different types of grass, and a lot of these textures are very, very temporary. All of the grasses are the same. Uh, Bluegrass, fescue, and there's three others. That won't end up being the same. But again, it's easy to change a texture later. It's even easy to add a different model and set that to a different LOD level later. For now, it's very, very simple. And again, that doesn't matter. So the grass, let's see, I'm going with a triangle setup, right? Why is that black? That shouldn't be black. That's weird. Grass 5x. Oh yeah, because that's just a temporary, like a model. This is how 7 Days to Die does it. If I turn on back there, it's going to look more like a two shaded. So it's this one is a pentagon and it's tilted inward at the top because you're going to be looking down on it most of the time. This is how 7 Days to Die does it, where it's that way pretty much every angle you look at it, it's going to be normal. Normally in other games you'll see a cross pattern, or in this case, or triangles. Depends on what kind of triangle count or what kind of poly count you want to see. So each one of these planes is two triangles. See, two triangles, there and there. Um, so that's what I'm going with for now. And it's tilted slightly in at the top. If we wanted to make this, goodness, just add a plane. Where is it? J to get to it. There we go. Okay, so add a plane. I'm going to go in. I'm just going to do. No, you know what? No, this is better. This is what I've been doing. So it's already centered. So I'm just going to add the cylinder. Make it 3. All right. I'm going to make the bottom. I could just snap it if I wanted to a face. There we go. That works that. So it's snapped to the ground. Or I could just grab those bottom ones like that. And then let's see, uh, just set it to 0 for, yeah, that's one way to do it too. Then I'm going to get rid of the plane that I had because I don't need it anymore. Make sure I'm deleting the right thing. Get rid of the bottom of this, the top of this. Boom. All right, now I'm going to take these. So now we just have that. I'm going to move this off of that bush because we don't need it there. New bush, all right? And then I'm going to select all of these. Let's see. Goodness gracious. Let's turn on this so it's there. Select all these. And then I got to go and split edges by faces. There we go. Or faces by edges. So now each one is disconnected from each other. So now I'm going to select them all. And I'm going to scale them by their individual origins. See? So now they're like that. But I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to scale it by median point, which is in the middle of all of it. Just get it to the general size that I want. And now I'm going to do it by, ignore that. I'm going to do it by individual origins and go, whoop, so now they're crossing over each other. And that's it. That's it. That's how I make it. And then I go like this, grab the top pieces, then just scale that down a little bit. And depending on how the texture stretches when I put it back onto it, that'll be different. So now let's make the texture real quick. Oh, see, look at this. This is no good. Why is it floating in the air? I'm going to grab the bottom. I'm going to cursor to the selected, and then I'm going to go out, and then I'm going to, all my quick favorites, I'm going to origin to 3D cursor. There you go. So now it's at the bottom of it. And now I'm going to go back to here and set that at 0. So now it's right on the ground for now. Some plants need to go under the ground just a little bit. Like trees, I have them go down below the ground, below their own origin just a little bit, just in case they happen to be on a slope terrain or something, happen to be placed there to where you're so you don't see like just like a all like a flat edge and then like a gap at the bottom. So that way it always goes into the ground past where the ground would be, so it never looks really weird. All right, so there we go. So we got this. Yeah, there's our new bush thing. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and apply the scale for now. Boom, boom. All right, and I'm gonna save. All right, so now that I've gathered these from Google search, these serviceberry bushes, um, you know what? And let's see. Actually, hold on. Chat GPT. Here's how I actually started this. Here's how I actually did it. I went to Chat GPT and I said, list 10 common bushes found in the American Midwest in a mixed forest, right? And then it just gave me a list. Obviously I could Google this stuff, but like this is a little easier. And this has obviously, and this is also it can be wrong. Elderberry, these are common around here. Serviceberry, right there. So I went through and I gathered things. Um, I could Google this. This is a little lazier and maybe a little less accurate, but like the way I see it is this can make the same kind of mistakes that a human researcher would make. So I'm fine with those level of mistakes, you know. Um, Later on, everything will be slowly proofread, and as the game, if I make the game and then people play it and say, Virginia creeper, you're not going to find that in the American Midwest. That's only native to blah blah blah. Then okay, then I can make a tweak. It's very easy to do later. It's not an issue, but this gets you in the ballpark, absolutely. Um, and then I made a spreadsheet in Open Office Calc, which is free, by the way, free and open source. So I made a spreadsheet of everything that I want for a mixed forest. And the fact that I'm doing a mixed forest right now, it's like a standard, quote unquote, standard forest for my region. Mixed just means coniferous and deciduous. And a lot of this stuff I asked about by Chat GPT as well, because I went over here on Chat GPT. Where is the thing that I just, oh, yeah, okay. And I said, list biomes common to the American Midwest, and then it did that too. So I have a list, another spreadsheet of just biomes from around the world, ones that I want to make sure are represented, you know. Um, Deciduous forests are the ones that, yeah, lose their leaves in the fall. Oak, maple, hickory, right? You're gonna have coniferous, and then mixed is just when you have both. Like coniferous is pine trees and stuff, evergreens. So then a mixed forest would be both in between, uh, and that's kind of what we have around here. So that's what I'm trying to represent. Um, so that's it. That's how I got the idea for the mixed forest. And then I said, well, what's in a mixed forest? In a mixed forest, and here these are these. And then I made the spreadsheet right here, and here's the spreadsheet. And I've gotten down to serviceberry. I'm skipping huckleberry for now, because it's a little different, and I'm trying to show you a bush. So then I got my serviceberry. I googled serviceberry, um, and I had to give me the actual species name in ChatGPT, so which is why I could get the exact, make sure that like because there's like a dogwood tree and a dogwood bush, and I'm specifically looking for the dogwood bush. So if I look up and I don't know what this stuff looks like, so if I look up a bunch of reference imagery for a dogwood, and I get bushes and trees, it's gonna be cringe. Um, if I mix in characteristics or like that would be a little annoying if for people to see. They'll be like, wait, this is a bush, but it looks like the tree of dogwood. So I just put the species name in to make sure I was getting the right stuff, and I'm pretty sure. So this one, serviceberry. All right, so there we go, and I got these pictures, and so there you go. All right, so here's my atlas that I made, 1024 by 1024, and each one of these is what? 128? Is that right? Yeah, 128 by 128 pixels, which is plenty. Minecraft is 16 by 16, a little too low for me. 32 by 32 is still pretty low. Making really low resolution imagery for textures and stuff is actually very difficult because you have to be very smart and efficient about every pixel because it needs to represent so many different things. Um, it's like a weird like a pyramid where it's like difficulty. It's like wait, no, that's not it. It's like this. So it's like really difficult when it's a very low pixel. Then if you go over here when it's very high pixel, it's like photos. To get things photo real, it's kind of difficult. So I'm doing things right in here to where it's I don't need photorealism and PBR textures with like ambient occlusion and normal maps just to make it look normal in like realistic lighting. Because that's too much, and it's also kind of not the style I'm going for. I'm going for more of a Wind Waker style. Um, and I also don't want things that are so low pixel count, like pixel art, that I have to spend a lot of time making it look not horrific. So right here is perfect, and this is about 128, 256, 512 for some larger textures. Um, so these are 128 by 128. They're little things on the grass, perfectly fine. And again, these are temporary textures. These are very rough. And one of the important things to understand is that it doesn't have to look good in reference to the image that you got it from or that you were inspired by, that you used as reference imagery. It doesn't have to look as good as that. Like for example, this what is this thing? This thing right here. Wild. Oh, I don't know. Gosh, I can't remember what it was. Um, but it looks terrible, in my view, compared to the reference imagery. Because obviously, it's just like I'm using just this simple circle brush. There's no like I'm not actually painting to where you have like different stroke widths and stuff naturally and all that stuff. And this is just basic Paint Shop Pro, which I dislike, but it's the best thing I've found. I tried Photoshop Elements recently, and like it didn't even have a dark mode that I could find anywhere, so I was really mad about that. So I immediately went back to this, even though it's like has weird glitches and stuff. And if anybody knows something actually better, that'd be great. I'd love to upgrade. But yeah, so this is a symbol, and so it doesn't need to look good actually. Even these bushes, they don't need to look good at this stage actually. They just need to look good in relation to the environment, in the sense of representing objects. So like these all look different, and you could potentially learn what these things basically look like. Basically, looking at this atlas and taken together, it looks kind of cute. All these different little plants. This is a jack in the pulpit. And this is a trillium, I think, because they have like little three-leaf like flower things, I think. Um, that's kind of cool. And as long as you can tell them apart, this is a wild carrot down here in the bottom right. These are dandelions, little tufts of them. Um, as long as they represent their ideas um, in the world and help me like work and have a basic kind of consistent theme, which is kind of this painterly theme, even though it's like I don't know, like a blobby painterly theme. Um, that's fine. That's fine for now. This one, God, I hate the way this looks. It looks like lettuce, but it's supposed to be like clover or something. I can't remember, but it's fine. We can always upgrade a texture later easily. That's not an issue. Um, it's getting the system working, getting all the things represented and placed as placeholders. That's that where the real work is. All right, so now here we go. There's the dogwood bush, by the way. It's like this thing right here. So let's do the serviceberry, which is where is my imagery? Okay, so it's basically like a tree doodle, almost like a hazel kind of thing. All right, so I'm just gonna take this, drop it into here, and now I just need the colors, right? Like let's go with this bright color. Okay, so I'm gonna grab this, I'm gonna put it right there, and I'm gonna grab this because that's basically the colors I need, and I'm gonna bring them over here. All right, so and this is more of a tree. I should probably be doing this differently, but whatever. Um, it's all temporary. So, looking at the image, and it's actually up on my third screen right now in Windows Picture Viewer, just to make it a little simpler. So I'm just going to make a basic boop boop. There's a couple things coming out of the ground, and here's the thing: I work from back to front. I think that's the best way to do it. So it's like boop boop boop, which also means darkest to lightest. Probably should have gone with this, right? And then we go boop boop boop. All right, and There's the thing again. And so then we just be like, get the basic shapes, get the silhouette right first. Then that makes it a lot easier later on when you're adding little details. You don't have to go back and fix everything else. All right, so that's the basic idea. Should have been doing these in little tufts. That's it's terrible, but and see it's kind of mixed between green and white, so get a little of this. I should have gotten this earlier. The back underneath, the dark colors underneath, kind of what Bob Ross does too. You get the dark stuff underneath first, and it's kind of interior to everything, and you kind of lay things on top. It makes things look better. Okay, this is sufficiently terrible. Um, yeah, it's pretty horrible, which is great. That means we're done. Okay, when you got 90 to make, done is better than perfect, or even good at this stage. Like I would love to make an ugly game. That'd be amazing because that would mean that I made a game. You know, it's like let's make an ugly game and then make it pretty. That's the idea. All right, so that's sufficiently terrible. Okay, okay, and I'll go in here and then let's see. I'm gonna reset these UVs so it just fills the whole square. Let's reload that. There it is. Reset these. So U R A S. Scale it down. That's yeah, and I have snapping on, so it kind of centers it to where it needs to be. All right. And why is it not showing up here? Because I don't have the material assigned. So I'm going to use the cutout. There it is. All right, and those are all flipped upside down. So I need to go through and grab these faces and wow, that's really, really bad. That's awesome. Okay, that's perfect. Go in here, rotate them so there we go. That's wonderful. Okay. Then I just turn off the snapping now, and I shape it up to the general shape I want. All right, now that's tiny, so that's what it actually should be. All right, and then I'm going to apply the rotation and scale. So now that's done. And so this is, what is it, Service Berry? And I laid all of these out before using an array of planes, you know, and the little doodles. And see, when I just scaled it just now, I was able to do this kind of okay because I see this person right here. It's a 5'8" American male, the average height for an American white male. So that's just what I put. I have a one for women too. It's 5'4" average American female height. Let's see. There we go. So that's pretty good. That's just wonderful, isn't it? Um, and the really the nutty thing is all these things once they're in game, it'll look really cool, even though these are really terrible textures. So then you get to think like, how cool is it going to look once I actually do go back and actually make proper textures for all these? Then it's going to look like mind blowing. Like, if you can make it look good when it looks terrible, then like it's going to be great when it looks actually good. It's just a little weird to say, but okay. Okay, and then so that's done. And then there's going to be a pass where you go through each one of these and you say, okay, does this simple geometry adequately represent this object? And in some cases, it'll be just fine. Like this grass, I mean, obviously the texture is kind of weird, but that's going to be fine for grass, probably. But for something like a bush, that's not going to fly ultimately, you know? So like, say you have this bush. All right, I'm going to put the cursor there. I'm going to add this is temporary, but I'm just going to give an example of like the secondary, like actual proper model pass. An icosphere, there you go. Bada bing, flatten it. All right, now let's grab the top and stretch it up to make it a little pokey, since apparently that's what I decided this thing looks like. There we go. Make it smooth shading so you can't see the facets. And I could have, when I created this, I could have made it higher or lower poly. This is a little high, honestly, for what I'm doing. But that's fine for now. All right, I'm going to grab this and kind of still continue like poofing it. All right. And now I'm going to put the origin at the bottom like it should be. Boop. It's a little pointy, so we'll get right there. Okay. Now I'm going to apply the rotation and scale. And now I'm going to just reset that again. It's not going to look great, but it's part of the business. Truly, at the end, a hand painted texture where I go in and add the texture to a texture slot, and then I actually paint and have it like proper painted textures over here. That would look the best. Um, there you go. Look at that. It's already some kind of cool flower dude. I could just leave that like there, poof, and now you have some kind of weird thing. Okay. So which one is this? This one here, right here. I think it's blueberry or something. Um, so these would all be kind of interior. See, and that's a little too much for my taste. It's a little too repetitive. So what I will do instead is like properly UV this in a sense of I'll split it down the middle, cut through and straight with the Z and C keys. There we go. Now I'm gonna mark that as a seam, and now I'm going to unwrap. There we go. So now we properly unwrapped ish. Have the two things as I'm up here in island selection mode. Okay, now when I go in, of course, this now we're telling this that this should be a tiled texture, right? Instead of this random side of a bush thing, so that it seams correctly. But even so, there you go. It starts to become the shape of a real bush. It starts. In my game, bushes and plants and ferns and stuff won't have collision. So you'll be able to walk through them, hide through them. They obscure your view. Tree trunks will have collision, but this kind of thing won't. Because I just think it's annoying to have to like slide around a forest all the day, all the time. I think of the obstruction of your vision from all these things is enough of a challenge to make it kind of feel like it without having to just like jump across bushes and crap all the time. Because I hope that it can be pretty dense because it's low poly and it's going to be instanced, and I'm using everything on an atlas of textures and a couple of materials. There's a cutout and there's a solid that most objects will have, and so it'll batch pretty well. I've already done a test with the little tree thing, and it batches like 3,000 trees down into like 10 draw calls because it's all in one and they're all static, and it works pretty great. So there's our wait, what is this thing? Let's see. Blackberry. All right, so blackberry. There's a proper one. But see, so there are two aspects of the drafting passes. There's the model and then there's the texture. And each time you iterate, it gets better. So now this one, see, I like that little glow around the top, and we could accomplish that with a shader. Where I have like a little kind of Fresnel a URP shader that has like kind of a little Fresnel around the edges, or like a little normal map that glints some, or we could just have some little leaves popping up, and that's a higher level pass. But for now, that's good. So we go back to our dogwood, or not dogwood, but serviceberry. Yeah. So that's there. Um, and what I've been doing when I go through each one, instead of remodeling this little triangle doodle every time, I'll say like, all right, so this one is a fern. All right, so I'm going to duplicate it. Then I'm going to set the cursor there. Then I'm going to grab the duplicate or the other one, whatever. I can rename them later if I grabbed the original one. Then I'm going to move the selection of cursor. So now it's centered right on this one. And now I'm going to J to join that there. So now I have both. I'm going to delete the plane because I don't actually need the planes, you know. And so now it's properly centered on this object, and it's already called a fern, and it's ready to roll. Um, and as you can see, I went through here and renamed all of the, once I made the array, I split it all into individual objects separated by parts after I applied the array modifiers. And then I manually renamed all of these to what I had in my spreadsheet. Um, and then I grabbed them all. And this is so cool, this ACT tool set. I can't remember. I think it might be built in. You just gotta enable it in Blender. But I go down, object name to mesh name, boom. So then you don't have this weird crap where you have random meshes in Unity that are named like square 05, square 17, or like cube 27 for 1,000 things. Because sometimes you might want to actually use your meshes in Unity to create custom objects, and searching through the list of all your meshes in Unity is not fun if they're not named well. So I just keep them named the same as this as their actual object. Which is a little weird and confusing that there's the object, right? And then there's the mesh that the object has, and then there's also the texture that the object has, which is this image, and then there's also the material on the object that the texture uses. And if you want to paint on it, you need to go up and text, make it a make sure, select the paint slot, right, and then you can paint on it. you know, it's like, and then you got to make sure you save your image and save your file. Um, It's a lot of weird stuff about Blender, but again, I've been using Blender since 2014, so now it's fine. It's very natural and intuitive to me at this point, but Blender has a gigantic and stupid learning curve because of all these weird things. Like, oh, you renamed your object? Well, make sure you name the object inside of your object, or your object won't be renamed the right thing as your object. It's like, oh, and you renamed your texture? Well, make sure you rename the material that your texture uses and set your paint slot and make a paint slot for that texture so you can paint on the texture in the material. That's Blender. Okay. And make sure you save your image, because if you don't save your image before you exit, then you'll lose all of your image. Um, and it's like, oh my god. Um, okay, so that's making one of these, you know, in a basic, like this is a draft one pass. Looks really bad. This may actually, this kind of thing can work at a distance for an LOD. See, from here it looks fine. Even from up here it looks fine. When you're right overhead, it doesn't look fine. So if I were actually properly going to be using this, I would also like put one like there, like that. So then if you're above it, it's still kind of, you're flying in the sky or something. But this is truly like an LOD 5 kind of thing, something you would only see very, very far away. Your LOD 0, when you're really up close, like I want to add a lot of detail to that kind of thing, like see like the individual leaves. Um, but that's playing it, like I'll play that by ear because the performance is king, and I want this to eventually work in VR and co-op. Um, and this is right now for this is the AOS project, but all this stuff will be useful in my main project, Knott's game and everything too. But okay, so that's where we're at now, and yeah, so that's good. And then I'll go into Unity and import those, and I'll get that stuff set up at some point too. But that's the process for making one of these things um, in a very, very basic form. Thanks for watching.